Hello, gentlemen. The strongest man in the room is the one who stands alone. Sigma males walk a path few dare to tread. In a world obsessed with connections, social approval, and fitting in, they exist outside the usual boundaries, solitary, self-reliant, and often misunderstood. They aren't loners by chance, they choose to have nobody in their lives. This isn't a result of being antisocial or incapable of forming bonds. Quite the opposite. The reasons why they remain isolated are far deeper, more complex and unapologetically intentional. What drives a man to turn his back on the crowd and embrace the silence? The truth is, being alone isn't their weakness. It's their ultimate strength. Number 1 on our list. They don't need friends, and they don't pretend to either. Sigma males don't need friends, and they make no effort to pretend otherwise. It's not that they're incapable of making connections, they just don't see friendship as a necessity. While most people fill their days seeking validation, approval, and company to feel complete, a Sigma doesn't operate on those terms. They thrive on their own, fully content without the distractions of casual relationships. For them, the constant social noise others depend on only gets in the way of their focus, their goals, and their peace of mind. It's not about arrogance or thinking they're better than everyone else. They've simply mastered the art of self-sufficiency. A Sigma male doesn't chase after people to avoid loneliness, because loneliness to them is just another state of being. They don't feel the void that gnaws at others when left alone. Instead, they find clarity, purpose, and freedom in that space. If a friendship happens to form, it's on their terms, based on mutual respect and real connection, not a need to fill some emotional gap. That's why you won't see them engaging in shallow interactions or forcing themselves into social circles just to avoid being alone. The irony is, their independence often attracts people, but the Sigma will never alter who they are just to keep someone around. Friendship for them is a luxury, not a lifeline. And if no one makes the cut, they're perfectly fine walking their own path, undisturbed. At number 2, caution is their armor. Too many have burned them. Sigma males are cautious when people try to get close too quickly. They've been through enough experiences to know that when someone rushes into their life, there's often something off. It's not that they don't appreciate genuine connection, but they've learned that real relationships take time to build. They're always on high alert for ulterior motives, hidden agendas, or emotional neediness. The faster someone tries to latch on, the more suspicious the Sigma becomes. They don't buy into the idea of instant friendships or sudden bonds. To them, meaningful connections are earned, not handed out freely. When someone forces their way in, asking too many personal questions or demanding too much time and attention right away, it sets off red flags. The Sigma knows that people who rush closeness often have strings attached, whether it's manipulation, control, or dependency. They've seen this play out before, and they aren't about to fall into the same trap again. Instead of letting just anyone into their life, Sigmas build walls, not to push people away, but to filter out those who don't belong. The few who are patient enough to break through those walls earn the Sigma's respect and trust. But those who try to bulldoze their way in, they're met with a cool distance. For the Sigma, it's all about protecting their space, their energy, and their peace. They won't let anyone disrupt that balance, no matter how charming or persistent someone might be. Number 3, their intense privacy is off-putting. Sigma males' intense need for privacy often makes people feel uneasy. They don't reveal much about themselves, and that mysterious aura can be intimidating. Most people are used to constant sharing, talking about their thoughts, feelings, or even the smallest details of their day. But a Sigma? They keep their cards close to their chest. They don't overshare, and they don't open up easily, even with those who try to get close. This level of privacy isn't an act of arrogance or superiority, it's simply how they operate. They see no point in laying all their emotions or personal stories on the table for everyone to dissect. To them, privacy is power. The less people know, the less they can use against you. This mindset makes others uncomfortable because, let's be real, most people are used to transparency and expect the same in return. When they encounter a Sigma who keeps everything locked down, they're left unsure of how to connect. And that uncertainty can turn into intimidation. It's not uncommon for people to mistake a Sigma's reserved nature for coldness or indifference, but it's deeper than that. Sigmas don't see the need to explain themselves to anyone, and they don't owe anyone access to their inner world. This controlled silence often causes people to back off, feeling as if they've hit an impenetrable wall. And for the Sigma, that's exactly the point. They let very few people into their personal space, and that selective approach keeps them guarded, and, in the eyes of many, untouchable. At number 4, even family can't be trusted. Sigma males understand a hard truth that most people tend to avoid. Even family can't always be trusted. They've learned through life that just because someone shares your blood doesn't mean they have your best interests at heart. Sigmas don't romanticize family ties. They're well aware that some family members can be just as toxic, manipulative, or self-serving as anyone else. And for a Sigma, loyalty isn't automatic. It's earned. They don't let themselves get caught up in the guilt that often comes with cutting off or distancing from family. While most people cling to the idea that family must always stick together no matter what, a Sigma is perfectly willing to walk away if that relationship becomes harmful to their peace of mind. They've seen enough to know that family can sometimes be the ones holding you back, draining your energy, or undermining your success out of jealousy or their own insecurities. This approach might seem cold to outsiders, but for the Sigma, it's about survival. They understand that clinging to family for the sake of tradition or obligation is a path to self-destruction if that family dynamic is toxic. Instead, they prioritize their mental and emotional well-being over forced connections. It's not that they don't care about family. It's that they won't allow themselves to be dragged down just because of a shared last name. In their world, trust, respect, and support are what matter. And if family can't offer that, they'll have no problem walking away, no matter how uncomfortable it makes others. Number 5, they despise the idea of being desperate for company. Sigma males are fiercely independent, and the idea of being desperate for company goes against everything they stand for. They've mastered the art of solitude and don't feel the need to surround themselves with people just to avoid being alone. Where most people fear isolation, Sigmas find strength in it. They aren't the type to force themselves into social situations for the sake of appearances or to avoid loneliness. They're perfectly content on their own. What sets them apart is their complete lack of fear when it comes to being alone. Society tends to view loneliness as something to be avoided at all costs, but Sigmas see it differently. To them, solitude is where they can truly focus, think deeply, and be at peace. They don't need people to fill an emotional void, and they certainly won't seek out shallow connections just to feel like they belong. It's not about shutting others out, it's about understanding that being alone doesn't mean being lonely. This mindset often confuses others, especially those who can't handle even a few hours of solitude without feeling restless or anxious. Sigmas, on the other hand, would rather spend days by themselves than settle for relationships that don't align with their values. They're not antisocial or emotionally unavailable. They simply value quality over quantity. If someone adds nothing of substance to their life, they see no point in forcing a connection. For them, solitude isn't a punishment, it's a choice. And that choice gives them a kind of inner strength that many people will never understand. Number 6. Drama is a wasteland they won't step into. Sigma males have an almost allergic reaction to drama. They don't just avoid it, they run the other way. Drama, with its unnecessary chaos and emotional outbursts, is the antithesis of everything they value. They crave peace, clarity, and focus. And the last thing they need is to be pulled into petty conflicts or mind games. It's not that they're conflict averse. They can handle confrontation if it's necessary. But drama, that's an entirely different beast and one they refuse to entertain. What makes them stand apart is their ability to see through the noise. They don't get caught up in gossip, emotional manipulation, or power plays that tend to consume others. While many people thrive on the constant ups and downs of drama, whether in their relationships or social circles, Sigmas simply don't have the patience for it. It drains their energy, disrupts their mental space, and brings no real value to their lives. They see it as a complete waste of time and something that only distracts from their goals. This is why you'll rarely see a Sigma in the middle of a heated argument or tangled in messy situations. If drama starts to brew around them, they'll quietly distance themselves without making a scene. They don't need to explain themselves or justify their actions. They just cut ties and move on. And if someone tries to drag them into their chaos, the Sigma will shut it down quickly, often leaving the other person confused by how effortlessly they disengage. For the Sigma male, staying out of the storm isn't just about self-preservation. It's about maintaining control over their life and refusing to let anyone disturb their inner calm. Number 7. Their intellectual depth alienates them. Most people can't relate to the way a Sigma male thinks, and that's a big reason why they often stand alone. Their level of intellect isn't just about being smart, it's about seeing the world in a way that others simply don't. Sigmas analyze, question, and dig deeper into everything, which makes surface-level conversations unbearable for them. While most people are content discussing everyday things, a Sigma wants to talk about ideas, possibilities, and the bigger picture. They're always thinking several steps ahead, and that can make others feel out of their depth. Because of this, Sigmas often find themselves misunderstood. When you operate on a different intellectual wavelength, it's hard to connect with people who aren't wired the same way. It's not that they think they're superior, it's just that they can't force themselves to fit into a mold that doesn't align with their way of thinking. They get frustrated by the shallow, the trivial, and the repetitive nature of most conversations. For them, if a conversation doesn't stimulate their mind, it's just noise. This intellectual divide creates a natural distance between Sigmas and others. It's not intentional, but it's inevitable. While others might find comfort in the ordinary, Sigmas are always searching for more knowledge, more understanding, more depth. And because most people can't keep up, the Sigma often finds himself alone, but never lonely. They'd rather have a few deep, meaningful connections than be surrounded by people who don't challenge them intellectually. In their mind, quality of conversation is far more valuable than the quantity of people they could surround themselves with. If someone can't meet them on that level, the Sigma will simply keep moving forward, undeterred. Number 8. Loneliness isn't a symptom, it's a state of being. At their core, Sigma males carry a sense of fundamental loneliness that runs deeper than just a lack of people around them. It's not the kind of loneliness that comes from physical isolation. It's a mental and emotional solitude that exists because of who they are. Sigmas are fiercely independent, self-reliant, and naturally introspective, but this often means they walk a path that few others understand. Even when they're surrounded by people, they still feel disconnected, like no one quite gets the way they see the world. This loneliness isn't something they're ashamed of. It's something they've come to accept. They understand that being different comes with its own costs. Their independence, their refusal to conform, and their constant search for deeper meaning in everything sets them apart from most people. And while they're not actively seeking to fit in, this uniqueness creates a gap between them and others. They aren't interested in blending into society's expectations, but they also know that their chosen path can sometimes be a solitary one. What makes this form of loneliness different is that it's not necessarily a negative experience for them. Sigmas embrace it because it allows them to remain true to themselves without compromising for the sake of connection. They don't feel the need to chase after validation or companionship if it means losing a piece of who they are. Their loneliness isn't about a lack of people. It's about a lack of people who truly understand the depth of their thoughts and the complexity of their mind. In many ways, this loneliness fuels their strength. It pushes them to grow, to think independently, and to maintain their inner peace without relying on anyone else. They know that standing apart from the crowd means standing alone more often than not, but for a Sigma, that's not a burden, it's a badge of honor. Number 9, their self-sufficiency repels the dependent. Sigma males often face the misconception that their independence equates to a lack of emotional depth. People tend to think that because they're reserved and don't seek out social validation, they must be emotionally shallow or disconnected. But in reality, their emotional world is rich and complex, albeit not always visible to others. Sigmas experience emotions deeply. They just don't broadcast them. Their internal landscape is a whirlwind of thoughts and feelings, but they keep it hidden, not out of fear, but out of choice. This choice stems from their understanding that most people aren't equipped to handle the full spectrum of their emotional depth. They've learned that sharing too much too soon often leads to misunderstandings or exploitation, so they guard their emotions closely, revealing them only to those who truly earn their trust. This doesn't mean they don't feel deeply. They do. It means they've developed a protective layer around their emotional core to avoid being misjudged or manipulated. Their emotional depth is also a double-edged sword. Because they're highly sensitive to their own feelings and those of others, they often find themselves in a constant state of introspection. This can make interactions with others feel superficial and unfulfilling, reinforcing their preference for solitude. They may find it challenging to connect with people who don't share or understand their level of emotional insight. So while others might view their quiet demeanor as a sign of emotional distance, it's actually a reflection of their internal complexity. Sigmas experience emotions in a profound way, but they navigate them privately, choosing to keep their most intimate feelings away from the public eye. This means that their emotional world is anything but shallow. It's just meticulously protected, making it both incredibly rich and largely unseen. In exploring why Sigma males often stand alone, we uncover a world of profound independence and unique introspection. Their solitary path isn't about isolation, but a deliberate choice to maintain their personal integrity and focus. From their cautious approach to relationships to their rejection of superficial connections, Sigma males navigate life with a clarity and strength that others might find elusive. Their deep emotional world, hidden from view, reveals a complexity that's both intriguing and misunderstood. Embracing their solitude, they find strength in their autonomy and depth in their isolation. Understanding Sigma males means recognizing that their aloneness is not a flaw, but a powerful testament to their distinctive way of engaging with the world. If you enjoyed unraveling the mysteries of Sigma males, hit that subscribe button. Join us for more eye-opening content and never miss out on the latest insights. Subscribe now and stay ahead of the curve.